Can you hear me, Dr. Kimbro?
I am right here. How are you doing?
Okay, we're live now, so you can start.
Okay, are you going to introduce me or what's the game plan?
And then take it from there. Okay, you can introduce yourself, Dr. Kimbro.
Oh, you want me to start?
Yes, please.
Oh, okay. Wow.
Thank you.
All right. Well, that's the first time anybody ever said to me, okay, just start. It's like I'm walking in the class. And let me tell the students there, I am honored to be on this call, and an opportunity to go ahead and connect with the young people, not only in the homeland, but Botswana. I look forward to one day coming to your beautiful country and meeting you personally. But LaPang Ferguson gave me a call and she wanted to know if I had, could squeeze time into my schedule just to talk to students there on the African continent. And LaPang, I want to thank you for making this happen. Yes, you are making a difference. And let me tell you something right now, students. There's only 4 things in life that you want to do. Number 1, you want to make a difference. Number 2, you want to make a difference with somebody else who wants to make a difference. Number 3, you want to make a difference with somebody else who wants to make a difference doing something that makes a difference. But number 4, which is critical, you want to make a difference with somebody else who's making a difference doing something that makes a difference at a time when it makes all the difference in the world. And this is the time. You are in the right place at the right time. LaPang, thanks for making this connection. So what do we know about today's economy? We are in a digital economy, students. All right, the world has gone from agricultural to industrial, informational, technological, but now we are in a digital economy. So what in the world does that mean? That means when Mark Zuckerberg came up with Facebook, when Chad Hurley came up with YouTube, when Reid Hoffman came up with Instagram, when Jack Dorsey came up with Twitter, and they came up, and Kevin Systrom, when Reid Hoffman came up with this, with LinkedIn, and Kevin Systrom came up with Instagram. They came up with these social media platforms, not for you and I to get on there and see how many followers we have or to gossip and the like. No, they came up with these social media platforms so information can be expanded. So some poor child in Johannesburg, somebody might be motivated to get that child a uniform so she can go to school. Some poor child in the remote village across the globe, who doesn't have adequate drinking water, that, we might be motivated to go ahead and dig a well to expand the global network. That's why they came up with these social media platforms, to help others. And all you need right now, here we are halfway through 2022, students, and never forget, there's only 2 things in life you need. If you got a smartphone, and here's my smartphone, there's my Apple 12. If you got a smartphone and a point of view, you can change the world. You can change the world. It is not your resources, it is your resourcefulness. It is not your capabilities, it is your belief in your capabilities that will change your life. And all you need is mindset. Mindset is your greatest resource. And what do we know about mindset? A mindset is everything that you need. We are in a digital economy. And how you change your mind and how you view your world and how you view your circumstances. And what do we know about circumstances? Okay, so you weren't born rich, and you weren't born wealthy, and you weren't born with the necessary tools that you need right now. Oh, that's your starting point. But it was Booker T. Washington who said years ago, the circumstances that surrounds a man's or woman's life are not important. It is how that individual responds is the determining factor whether you will fail or whether you will succeed. So let's talk about your response. There's 4 questions that you need to ask yourself. Question number 1, why are you here? Did you hear what I said, students? You got to sit down and answer that question. Why are you here? Well, you're here to find your life's purpose. You're here to pursue your area of excellence. I tell my students at Clark Atlanta University, why was I born in 1950 and you were born in what, 2002, 2003, 2004? Well, the world wasn't ready for you in 1950. Obviously, the world was ready for me. But here we are in 2022, and now you are on the planet. What in the world does that mean? That means all the lights are green, all the stop signs have been removed. The world is ready for you right now. So why are you here? Well, you're here to find your area of excellence. And do you even know your area of excellence? And what are the 3 critical questions that will help you find your area of excellence? Number 1, what do you love to do? What do you have a passion for? What can you throw your whole heart and soul into? Question number 2, what would you do for free? I mean, if no one ever paid you a dime, if no one ever gave you, remuneration for your efforts, what would you do for free? Because when you're doing what you love to do and you would do it for free, students, your work is your play. And if your work is your play, you'll never work a day in your life. Now, I don't care who I interviewed. I don't care who I sat down and talked to one-on-one. And I would like to think that I met, several game changers over the course of my adult life. Yes, I interviewed Steve Harvey. Yes, I interviewed Tyler Perry. Yes, I interviewed Damon John. Yes, I interviewed T.D. Jakes. Yes, I interviewed Iyanla Vanzant. You name them, I probably interviewed them. And so many times during the course of the interview, I couldn't tell when they were working, when they were playing. It was completely symmetrical. And then last question, if you can't answer those 2 questions, go to people that you trust. Go to those individuals who you admire, who one day you hope to emulate. And sit down and talk to them and ask them, what do you see me as? What do you think I would be good at doing? The day that you find your area of excellence, the day that you find the reason why the Lord blew breath into your lungs, I want you to have a toast. You may not be old enough to drink, but I want you to have a toast. And what do you know? What will you realize when you find your area of excellence? 2 things you never have to worry about, students. Number 1, you never have to worry about employment. You never have to worry about employment. And number 2, you never have to worry about income. Why? Because the marketplace will seek you out. Everybody wants to be associated with those people who are excellent, and no matter what they do. What did Beyonce say? Do what you do so well that people can't ignore you. Do what you do so well that people can't take their eyes off you. So that's how you find your area of excellence. Question number 2. Okay, why are you here? Why are you here? Students, the greatest tragedy in life is not death. No, the greatest tragedy in life is to be alive and not know why. Why are you here? Steve Jobs and Martin Luther King used the same marketing strategy to reach their goals and objectives. That's right. Steve Jobs and Martin Luther King used the same marketing strategy. And what was that marketing strategy, students? Number 1, tell me where we are. Number two, tell me where we can be. And number three, make it that way. Okay, well, Dr. King, tell me where we are. Well, this country, the United States, wrote a black man a check and it came back marked insufficient funds. Okay. Steve Jobs, tell me where we are. Well, if you're like me, you probably got 50 million electronic devices on you, and they're pretty cumbersome. And sometimes you leave half of them at home or you forget them, and they're pretty, they're really not useful. Okay, tell me where we are. Question number two, tell me where we can be. Dr. King, tell me where we can be. Well, this country wrote a black man a check that came back marked insufficient funds. But I had a dream that my 4 children one day would be judged, not by the color of their skin, but by their character. Okay, thank you very much. Steve Jobs, tell me where we can be. Yeah, well, if you're like me, you got 50 million electronic devices and contraptions on you. But I had a talk with my systems engineers, and I had a talk with my designers, and I asked them, wouldn't it be nice if we could take all these electronic devices and place them on one single device? All right, listen to me, students. Question number 3, make it that way. Dr. King, make it that way. Well, yes, this country wrote a black man a check that came back marked insufficient funds, but I had a dream that my 4 children would be judged not by the color of the skin, but by the content of their character. Free at last, August 1963. Martin Luther King, free at last. Steve Jobs, make it that way. Well, if you're like me, got 50 million different electronic devices, but I called my designers and engineers together and I asked them, I said, wouldn't it be nice if you could put all these devices on a single device? April 2007. The greatest marketing presentation that the world has ever seen. March on Washington, August 1963, and April 2007, when Steve Jobs introduced the iPhone. That's why you're here, student. That's why you're here. The biggest mistake you will ever make in life is to think that somebody else signs your paycheck. No. You are president of your own corporation. You are an entrepreneur right now, whether you believe it or not, whether you even think about it or not. You're an entrepreneur right now. And then the last question, where are you going? Where are you going? What are your goals? When you drive your car, do you look through the front window or are you looking over your shoulder? Are you looking at the mirror and looking at what's behind you? Where are you going? So tell me about your goals. And what do we know about your goals, students? Your goals must be believable. Your goals must be achievable. Your goals must be conceivable. And your goals must be measurable. What gets measured gets done. Well, in the time that we have left, what did I find? What were the common chords that I found in all the individuals that I interviewed? What were they? And all the individuals, number one, they had a vision. So what did Steve Harvey tell me? Steve Harvey told me that a career is what you're paid for, but a calling is what you're made for. Students, what have you been called to do? If I asked you to categorize what you do for a living, would you tell me that it's hard? Would you tell me that it's a slave? Would you tell me that it's drudgery? Would you tell me, oh man, I can't stand that job? Or would you tell me that you're on a mission? And if you tell me that you're on a mission, you might even tell me that you're passionate about what you do. And if you tell me that you're on a mission and you're passionate about what you do, maybe the term conviction just might enter the conversation. And if you tell me that you got a conviction about doing what you love to do, maybe the word commitment just might surface up. And what do we know about those two terms, passion and commitment? Well, students, the passionate, committed mind can never be defeated. Did you hear what I said? I said the passionate, committed mind can never be defeated. If the passionate, committed mind could be defeated, there'd be no Oprah Winfrey. If the passionate, committed mind could be defeated, come to the United States. You got about 12 or 13 black billionaires here in the United States. I interviewed, 3 or 4 of them. And what do they have in common? A passionate, committed mind. A passionate, committed mind. See, there's a big difference between a desire and a burning desire. We all have 50 million different desires. All right, here you are in the study of my house. And I had a desire, 6 months ago? Man, I had to get the house painted. And I didn't know what color I was going to paint the interior until the painters came over and they showed me different swatches of colors. And we were going through all the books until I said, man, this is the one I desire. We all got different desires. I got a desire, I'm about to get me a new SUV, and I'm looking at SUVs right now. I got different desires. But what's the difference between a desire and a burning desire? Listen to me, students. A burning desire is an inner candle, an inner flame that cannot be extinguished. And though the worst may go before you, doubters may come, critics may come, cynics may come, all the folks who might laugh at you, they may come. You can't do this, you can't do that. You will use their doubt. You will use their despair. You will use their criticism. You will use their cynicism to propel you forward. That's what the Bible means. And, hey, don't despise small beginnings. And they talk about tribulations, man. Don't get involved in the tribulation. Use the trials and tribulations to spur your energy forward. And never forget, students, it's not what you're going through. It's what you're going to. Dr. Kimbro, what in the world do you mean? Keep your eye on the prize. Keep your eye on the prize. There I am with Damon John, and I said, Damon, what was the high water mark in your life? What was the critical factor in your life when you didn't know if you were going to make it, if you were going to survive, or if you were going to fail? And he said to me, he called me Professor. Professor, it had to be the time when I burned the furniture. And I said, Damon, what are you talking about, burn the furniture? He said, well, when I finally got financing from Samsung to launch my apparel line, all these seamstresses showed up on my mother's house, and I had no place to place their equipment. I said, so what did you do? He said, I took all the furniture at my mother's house, put it in the backyard, and I set it on fire. Did you hear what he said, students? Took the furniture out of his mother's house, placed it in the backyard, and set it on fire. So what's the moral of that case study? If you set yourself on fire, the world will come see you burn. The world will come see you burn. So I said, Damon, what are the 2 critical factors that we need today in the digital economy? He said, number 1, you need creativity. What do you mean by creativity? Creativity is the ability to summon an idea. Listen to me, students. It is the ability to summon and come up with an idea. Don't you know that the average individual in our society gets 4 ideas a year, any one of which, if they had the guts, the fortitude, the courage to chase their dream, would make them financially independent. So here I am, and LePang, Miss Ferguson, your director, who came up with the idea for your classroom for this program, she called me up, and I knew that I had this on my schedule, and I got 50 million different ideas of what I wanted to say. She only gave me 30, 45 minutes, which is nothing to pour into you. So I'm thinking, man, this is what I want to say. I want to say this, and I want to say that. I got 50 million different ideas. We all get an idea. But I asked Damon John, I said, so creativity, that's the ability to come up with an idea. What is number 2? He said innovation. And what is innovation? It is the ability to implement the idea. Listen to me, students. You come up with an idea, it doesn't take forever to implement that idea. It doesn't. It doesn't. Decide on what you want to do. At the counter of success, there are no bargains. Nope. You must pay the price, pay it in full. Decide. So, that was number 2, talking about Damon John, your vision. Number 3, they were inner directed versus outer directed. And what do I mean by that? They weren't so quick to believe well-meaning friends and family members who said, you can't do this, you can't do that. No, they walked to a beat of a different drummer. And that's why the old poet Robert Frost was so apropos when he wrote years ago, decades ago, 2 roads diverge in the wood. And I took the road less traveled. You know, inner directed versus outer directed. You know, you can't believe what other people think, say, or do. That's part and parcel of leadership. And there's only 2 requirements of leadership. Number 1, the price is always loneliness. The price is always lonely. This is your particular journey that you've got to walk. This is your particular dream that you are pursuing. So number 1, the price is always loneliness. And number 2, you can never be concerned with what other people think, say, or do. You can never be concerned what other people think, say, or do. If you hang around, if you associate with 9 broke people, sooner or later, you're going to be number 10. Sooner or later, you're going to be number 10. All I got to do is look at you. And number 1, look at the books that you read, and you better be reading my books. You better be reading my books. Go get the wealth choice. Go get Think and Grow Rich, a Black choice. Go get what makes the great great. Now, why in the world do I want you to read my books? Because I wrote them? Hell no, not because I wrote them. The reason why you have got to read these books, because your wealth creators wrote this. Your people, your leaders, your wealth creators, your peak performers, folks who look like you, who come from the same circumstances as you, wrote these books, told me everything that I need to know. And all I did, I sat in a corner with a tape recorder, with a pad, and with a number 2 pencil, and wrote down everything they told me, and I placed it in a book for you, to give to you, so you could make a difference, so you could poke a hole in the universe, so you could prove to everybody out there why you are here. And it doesn't take much to succeed. If you want to succeed, all you've got to do is show up. If you show up, you'll be 80% of the competition. If you show up on time, students, you'll be 85% of the competition. If you show up on time with a plan, you beat 90% of the competition. If you show up on time with a plan and a commitment to carry it out, you beat 95% of the competition. But listen to me, students, if you show up on time with a plan and a commitment to carry it out and then execute it, you make the cover of Black Enterprise magazine. You make the cover of Time magazine. It doesn't take much. You'll make the cover of Forbes and Inc. magazine. It doesn't take much to succeed. Inner directed versus outer directed. And then last but not least, all of them were readers. All of them were readers. Did you hear what I said, students? All of them were readers. Warren Buffett, one of the wealthiest individuals in the world, what did he say was the key to success or is the key to success? 30 to 60 minutes a day, uninterrupted reading. 30 to 60 minutes a day, uninterrupted reading. You've got to believe in yourself when no one else will. Well, there you are. Get a vision, inner directed versus outer directed. Take action on what you've read, but I haven't told you a thing. Believe in yourself when no one else will. I want you to be like Sammy. Sammy is 8 years old in the 3rd grade, and he's painting a picture at his desk. And the teacher comes by and says, Sammy, what are you doing? Sammy says, I'm painting a picture of God. The teacher says, well, Sammy, no one knows what God looks like. Sammy says they will in a minute. That's the type of belief that you got to have today. Turning neither left, turning neither right, but looking straight ahead. Somebody said it couldn't be done, but he with a chuckle replied that maybe it couldn't, but he would be one who wouldn't say till he tried. So he buckled right in with a trace of a grin on his face. If he worried he'd hit it, he started to sing as he tackled the thing that couldn't be done, and he did it. Somebody scoffed, though, you'll never do that. At least no one ever has done it. But he took off his coat and he took off his hat, and the first thing we know, he begun it. With a lift of his chin and a bit of a grin without any doubting or quitting. He started to sing as he tackled the thing that couldn't be done, and he did it. There are thousands that tell you cannot be done. There are thousands that prophesy failure. There are thousands ready to point out to you the dangers that wait till assail you. But with a lift of your chin and a bit of your grin, you just take off your coat and go to it. You started to sing as you tackle this thing. Listen to me, students. Listen to me, all the folks in beautiful, my beloved Botswana. I have just given you the keys to success. Get your dream. Get that burning desire. Focus on what you want to do, have, or become, turning neither left nor right, but the goal that's right before you, and you will do it. Let's open this up for some Q&A. Lepang, what's in the chat room? Any questions? Any questions?
Answer, what can young people do to start really working or venturing into the right partnerships, or valuing good relationships?
Yeah, that's a great question. You know, you need a mastermind group. You need to get around like-minded individuals. If you want to, if you want to run fast, if you want to fly fast, then run or fly alone. But if you want to run or fly far, then go with others. Fly or run with others. And that is a part of partnerships. And that is a part of networking. Like-minded individuals. Your network will be a reflection of your net worth. Of your net worth. All I got to do, if I want to know anything and everything about you, suppose I just met you on the street corner. All I would have to do is go ahead and look at your personal library, the books that you're reading, and number two, who you associate with. And that will tell me everything that you need to know. Now, in terms of entrepreneurship, there are 5 phases to entrepreneurship. And we have, we got a misconception about entrepreneurship. I mean, when you look at business and when you look at enterprise, there are 2 different sets. There are 2 different individuals. I mean, small business owners, what do? Well, they run small businesses. But entrepreneurs, what do entrepreneurs do? Well, entrepreneurs change the world. And that's 2 different individuals. Just because you run a small business doesn't make you an entrepreneur. But if you're an entrepreneur, there are 5 phases that you have got to go through on the path to entrepreneurship. And when you said networking with partnerships with other individuals, that's phase 3. That's phase 3 to entrepreneurship. And that is one of the most difficult phases for entrepreneurs to go through. To find like-minded individuals. To find like-minded individuals that believe in the dream, that believe in the vision, that believe in the culture. Culture trumps strategy. It isn't strategy, it is a culture. And culture is based off of your values. So if you want to draw people unto you, Don't you ever compromise your values. Don't you ever compromise your values. Be the same person behind the curtain, behind the screen that you are in front of it. So that is a great question in entrepreneurship. Next question, LePain. How do we go about finding the right mentor? Great question. I'm going to ask you this question right now. Who are the folks that you emulate? Who is the individual that you look up to? And in terms of entrepreneurship, number one, you need a mechanism. You need the 3 M's. Write this down, students. The 3 M's, starting point to entrepreneurship. M, number one, you need a mechanism. You need a vehicle. You need a product or service. You need an idea. So what's the mechanism? What's the product or service that you're going to use? And then you can ask yourself all the different questions in terms of your mechanism. This product or service, is this product or service confined to a central location where it can be served in an efficacious manner? 50 million questions, but you need a mechanism. Number 2, you need a method. Okay, so how are you going to serve this product or service? I mean, there are 21 different ways to market or sell a product or service. Number 1 is word of mouth. Number 21 is internet. Now, what do we know about millennials? What do we know about Generation Z? Millennials and Generation Z, in terms of, marketing the product or service, always flock to the internet. They always flock to the internet for at the sake of the other 20 different ways. Well, number 1, like I said, is word of mouth. Number 2 is flyers. Anybody ever print up a flyer and, okay, I printed up some flyers and I hand them out? Here in the United States, number 4 is advertising on a bench at a bus stop. Well, what is number 7? Number 7 is advertising on a building. Number 9, advertising on a truck. Number 21 is internet. Number 20 is TV. Number 19 is radio. Number 18, magazines. So, all right, if you are, marketing your product or service and all you're doing is with internet, what happens to the people that don't have smartphones? What happens to all your customers who don't have access to broadband, who don't have access to internet? You're going to turn your back on them? Well, if you're going to turn your back on them, you're not an entrepreneur. You're not an entrepreneur. You're a small business operator. Well, what is number 3? Number 3 is a model. So number 1, you need a mechanism. Number 2, you need a method. And number 3, you need a model. You need a model. So where are you going to find those models? You're going to go to seminars. You're going to go to conferences. You're going to be on calls like this. I don't know if LePain remembers this. When she was in my class with Yali, I told my Yali students, I got a sign in my classroom that reads, if you don't read, if you don't study, if you don't grow, if you don't develop, if you don't go to the seminars, if you don't go to the conferences, if you don't go to the workshops, if you don't sit in the front row and take good notes, one day you're going to meet a student that will. And the day that you meet that other student, guess what? You lose. You lose. So that's where you're going to meet, and that's where you're going to network. The conferences, the seminars, the workshops, like-minded individuals. Now, when you establish that network, it's not all about you. It's not all about you. Go read Malcolm Gladwell's book, Tipping Point. And what does he say in those 330 pages? He said, any problem. And Gladwell, when he said any problem, he meant any problem. I don't care whether the problem is shaving bumps. I don't care whether the problem is bloodshot eyes. I don't care whether the problem is homelessness. I don't care whether the problem is lack of education. Malcolm Gladwell says any problem can be solved if only enough people care. If only enough people care. So you want to find a role model? I mean, you want to expand your network? Then show somebody that you care. That you care. Because people don't care about you until they realize how much you care about them. That is the quickest way to expand your network. Great question. Next question. A couple of more questions before we wrap up. Come on, students, don't be shy. Do you believe you need to study entrepreneurship in college to succeed? No, not really. Not really. I mean, yeah, they made a discipline out of it. I mean, right now, you got close. If you go from here in the United States, from New York to Hawaii, you got about 5,000 professors who either taught or teach entrepreneurship, and you're talking to one right now. I no longer teach entrepreneurship, but I taught entrepreneurship for the longest. And entrepreneurship has changed over time. I remember one time entrepreneurship professors told students, well, you got to get a business plan, and it's got to be a perfectly crafted business plan. You don't need business plans today. No, no. You need what I shared with you in this opening call. You need the passionate, committed mind. Because when you look at all the businesses that are still existing today, that started and began without a business plan, Google, Larry Page and Sergey Brin, the founder of Google, they didn't have a business plan. What do they have? The passionate, committed mind. Bill Gates didn't have a business plan. That's how he started Microsoft in the 1980s. What did he have? He had a passionate, committed mind. Steve Jobs didn't have a business plan, but what did he have? He had the same thing that Howard Schultz of Starbucks had. He had the passionate, committed mind. Like I told you, students, the passionate, committed mind cannot be defeated. So basically, that's all you need. But it is a discipline. And what do we know about discipline? You got to study. You got to perfect your craft. You got to perfect your craft. Always in my class, I'll pull up my PowerPoint and I'll show my students a picture of Antonio Reed, a picture of Dr. Dre, and a picture of Babyface, and not only that, of Jay-Z. And what do those folks all have in common? And I asked my students, what do they have in common? And they say, oh man, Dr. Kimbro, they're music moguls, they're bank like Hank, man, they're billionaires and this and that. And I said, no, what do they really have in common? And I said, what are you talking about? And I said, these four individuals took time out of their busy schedule to take an executive management class at Harvard B School. They took time out of the busy schedule. And what do we know about that executive management class? 6 to 8 weeks at Harvard B School. And what do you know about Harvard B School? They all live out in LA. And the one thing that Harvard wouldn't allow them, okay, at the end of class on Friday, go ahead, get on the private jet, fly out to LA, come back Monday morning. No, not Harvard. You take this executive management class at Harvard, you are at Harvard for 6 straight weeks. So there I am with Antonio Reed. I interviewed Antonio Reed. And I asked him, I said, Antonio, you and Babyface, man, if you lived 3 lifetimes, you couldn't spend all the money that you earn. So give me the keys to the kingdom. Why would you take an executive management class at Harvard? He said, well, number one, the music business is a business. Planning, organization, and control. But number two, I learned a long time ago, the moment that you cease to grow and develop, well, that's the moment that you begin to doubt. Work on your craft. Work on your professional and personal development. That's a great question. Last question. Last question. LaPang Ferguson. LaPang Ferguson.
Hi, Dr. Kimbro. I'll ask the last question.
Oh, you got the last question. Let me hear your last question, Miss Ferguson.
My last question is the value of consistency, just being consistent with what you do and just
Oh man,
staying the course.
you got it. Not only consistent, but persistent.
Yeah.
Not only consistent, but persistent. And what do we know about consistent? Day in, day out. Day in, day out. All right. So I surveyed more than 1,000 black millionaires. I asked them 118 questions. And I asked them, I said, what is your average day like? What is their average day? The average black millionaire gets up, what, 5:30 in the morning, calls it a day, 10:30 at night. There it is. I asked them, I said, how old were you when you broke six figures? What was your age when you began to earn six figures, $100,000 or more? All of them by age 30. Okay. I said, how old were you when you got the dream to become a millionaire, to go to seven figures? They said, well, we believed in the dream. We knew that we could do it certainly by age 41. And then, of the more than 1,000 black millionaires that I interviewed, the average age of a black millionaire is 52. So, what was the process? Well, the process was consistent. Not one could tell me the day in which they crossed over from six figures to seven figures. Why couldn't they tell me the day in which they crossed that threshold to millionaire? Because their head was down and they were still working on their business. Consistent. Consistent. So that's number one. Number one tool in your toolbox is consistent. Number two is persistent. And what do we mean by persistent? What did John Johnson of Ebony Magazine tell me? That the first no of the day means good morning. That's being persistent. Refusing to be denied. Refusing to be denied. Yeah, there's going to be highs and lows. There's going to be ups and downs. There's going to be folks who don't believe in what you're doing, but don't you stop. You know, entrepreneurship is like a roller coaster. People ask me, okay, so when does a roller coaster end? When you step off the roller coaster. When you no longer believe in what you're doing. So there you are. You got to be persistent and you got to be consistent. All right. You know, there I am, Sony Columbia Records, and the story that they told me about Beyonce Knowles. Beyonce Knowles was in the 8th grade, age 13, when she tried to pursue a record label at Sony Columbia Records. And when she started Destiny's Child, she only had one dream, one vision. She wanted Destiny's Child, those four young ladies, to be just like the R&B women's singing group In Vogue. She wanted Destiny's Child to be just like In Vogue. Whatever In Vogue wore, that's what Destiny's Child wore. The dance steps that In Vogue used, those are the dance steps that we're going to use at Destiny's Child. But there was only one difference between In Vogue and Destiny's Child. And that dream was that In Vogue believed, but Destiny's Child didn't. And Sony Columbia Records told me the day that Beyonce Knowles bought into the big picture. Oh yeah, she was consistent, but she wasn't persistent. The belief wasn't there until she met the four young ladies from In Vogue. And I asked Sony Columbia Records, I said, so what do those four young ladies tell a young, Beyonce Knowles when she's barely a teenager? I told them one word. I said, what was that word? Believe. Believe. The moment that you buy into the big picture, it's game over. I mean, you don't have to worry about anything else. You cannot be turned away from your destiny. So there you are, students. Time is up. 45 minutes, right on the minute, Lepang. Thank you for giving me this opportunity. Students, go get my books. Go get my books. Because one day I'm going to be over in Botswana and I want to meet you. And I want to look at these books and I want to see where these books are highlighted. I want to see where these books, I want to see pages that are underlined. I want to see pages that are bent. I want to see notes in the margin. I want to see you carrying these books wherever you go. Because these individuals that poured into me, they were reading my books. How many of them were reading Think and Grow Rich, A Black Choice? That's the books they were reading. How many of them told me, Dr. Kimbro, I wouldn't be where I am right now if I didn't read that book when I was a teenager. I wouldn't be right now if I didn't read that book when I was in high school. Well, if it worked for them, look, damn it, it will work for you. And I don't care. You go to the school, you go to the program, and you say, no, you're going to get us these books. You're going to make this happen because our very existence depends on this. So there you are. LaPaine, I got a scoop. Thank you very much. Go ahead and take this and chop it up. Make sure it goes out through Botswana. Make sure it goes out through Africa. Send it to Nigeria. Send it to South Africa. I want it all over the continent.
Thank you so much, Dr. Kimbro. We really appreciate your time.
Yeah, and I appreciate you, LaPaine. Let me see that beautiful face, girl.
Not today, but you will soon. When I'm in Atlanta, that is for sure.
Okay. All right. Well, you have a good day and God bless.
Thank you, Dr. Kimbro.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.